All right. Good morning. Good morning. Yes.
What happened with Darren Sproles?
Darren Sproles. Just a slight hamstring. Just missed the day.
It happened during practice?
It did. It did. Yeah, it sure did.
Do you expect him to be able to go in a game, or?
Yeah, we're going to see after this practice. We'll make all those determinations. Who's out, questionable. That we'll list those after practice today after we get through the day.
Same with Shelton Gibson, the knee. Did that happen in the game or during practice?
Yeah, don't say it's not a knee. It's a little higher than that, but it's quad. But he should be fine. And again, we'll make that determination after this practice once we get him through the day.
Those are obviously your kick returner and punt returner. What's the plan if they can't play?
Well, first of all, we're going to see where they're at today, and secondly, then as you know, we've had Corey Clement back there, Wendell's been back there, Nelson's been back there on the kickoff returns, and then same thing with punts. You saw during a preseason, Corey's been back there a little bit. DeAndre Carter's been back there some, so they've been getting some work the last couple of days.
Doug, they're kind of banged up in the secondary. You guys struggled at least a little bit trying to get the football down the field. Do you think that's going to be at least a point of emphasis a little early?
Well, I look at it sometimes a little bit differently. They could be banged up on the back end, but they're pretty good up front. And if they're putting pressure on your quarterback, it's hard to get the ball down the field. So it doesn't matter who's banged up. We expect everybody to play. But with that being said, we've got to do our job offensively, and I've got to do a better job of calling plays, obviously, put our team in situations to, shoot the ball down the field, and then just our execution. Starts up front. Our guys know that. We talk about protection, not only in the pass game, but also run blocking, and they take a lot of pride in that, and then we'll see what happens.
Both Nick Foles and Fitzpatrick are technically backup quarterbacks. You know the value of a backup quarterback well. As a coach, how do you weigh between having that experienced veteran backup as opposed to the up-and-coming guy?
Well, it's definitely different. I think you're a little more cautious probably with a younger player, a little bit. These two veteran players have played a ton of football, obviously, and they're playing well. They both have played well throughout their careers, and I think you can open up more your playbook and expose them both to more of what you're doing offensively.
Is it your preference to have a backup with starting experience as you go forward?
It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I mean, in our case, the last couple of years, it has been that way. But it's valuable. As you know, in this league, sometimes your starter might miss a game or two or three or potentially the season like ours did last year, and you need someone that maybe has that experience to come in, and it just allows you to maybe open up more of your offense just a touch with having a veteran in there.
How was Alshon looked in practice so far, and do you kind of expect him like in the next week or coming weeks?
Well, yeah, he's looked good. He's looked really well. Some of the individual stuff that he's doing. He's not cleared for anything physically yet, but he from contact standpoint, but he's working the individual drills and throwing on the side still and doing some good things there. So we'll evaluate him again next week.
You're looking at another game this week in hot and humid weather. Do you do anything differently with regard to either hydration or preparation when you're going into a game like this?
It's hard to, but the only thing really is just continue to educate our players and talk to them every day about hydration. And it can't start on Friday or Saturday. It has to start earlier in the week. And our Wednesday practice was extremely humid outside, and so it gives us a good sort of a taste of what it's going to be like, down there. I know it's supposed to be low 90s, I think. Heat index probably a little warmer than that, but those are all things that we can't let it affect us. We've with the hydration and even the nutrition part of it and rest, making sure that they are ready to play in games like this, especially early in the season.
Jim rotates his guys up front. I mean, you saw last week, fourth quarter of that game when it's hot and humid, they still were strong. As an offensive coach, how does that impact
when you can do that against an offensive line that's played 100% of the snaps?
It's a great question. I always wonder that myself. You got 5 offensive linemen that go the whole game, and you got 8 defensive linemen that rotate. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. Your O-line should wear down. I don't know. It's different. It's a different position. I feel like the defensive line guys they're probably running a little bit more sideline to sideline than offensive line guys are. So maybe they're giving out more energy during the game. Pass rush is obviously a tough thing to do, and it's a conditioning thing, and that's why we rotate guys to make sure they are fresh and somewhat fresh in the fourth quarter. But our offensive line guys are kind of the same way. They're conditioned that way, and they're a little more in that short area, box, tackle box area than they are necessarily sideline to sideline.
Doug, with the lack of reps that most teams are getting in the preseason now, just kind of the trend you had touched on earlier, is it kind of an accepted reality that offenses are just going to be a little bit behind defenses early as a result of that? And how do you kind of plan for that, I guess, as a coach?
Yeah, I think it can happen. I mean, of course, then you look at these games. I mean, there was 700 and something points scored in the first weekend, so there's not much lack of offense. I mean, it's pretty explosive. And there's been some high scoring games. So, each team is different. It could be an injury situation offensively. It could be the fact that maybe they didn't play a ton in preseason, so now they're just finally getting together. Whatever it is. We just have, as coaches, we make sure that our guys are working together, meaning they're working together in training camp practices. They may not play in the game, but they're getting work done in camp practices, and then obviously they're getting, all the reps now, during the regular season. So it probably is a little bit of catch up, but I think too what you're seeing is it's not that far behind based on the scores that are being posted here in the first couple weeks.
There's expected to be a lot of Eagles fans that make their way down for the game on Sunday. When you're on the road, do you notice that when there's a lot of Birds fans that travel, and how much of an impact do they have?
Yeah, first of all, I wish everybody that's traveling, safety, obviously with the storm that's going on, and making sure they get there safe. And we do feel it. We do feel the fact that there's Eagles fans in the stadium and in the city and around our hotel. It's something that I knew there was something on my shoe. Gosh, sticking to the carpet. And it's great to see. It's great to see that sea of green, in the stadium. How they can be loud and kind of disruptive for the home team is great. I mean, I think our fans travel extremely well. Got them all over the country, all over the world, and would expect a pretty good crowd in Tampa this weekend.
Doug, the way you guys use jet motion, when in your career did you kind of notice the impact that could have on defenses, and what do you like about using that?
Probably it's really probably taken off here in the last few years. Definitely misdirection, not only handing it to the guy, but then coming off of it with play action passes and screens and traps and other runs and all kinds of stuff. And for me, I think the exposure was just when you find a guy that like we had Deshaun Jackson, for instance, here in Philly, and not necessarily a jet sweep guy, but he was the short motion. I don't want to call it a gimmick or a gadget, but he was a reverse guy. He was obviously a speed guy down the field, but we could use him in formations and different motions and shifts to maybe just draw the attention away from where we're going with the ball, and I think that's what the jet sweep has provided, most offenses that use it.
Doug, you're facing a couple of guys that were just recently here in Vinny and Bo. I'm curious, do you have to change anything in terms of play calling or signaling or anything of the sort with guys who have been here as long as they have and know you as well as they do?
Something we take into consideration. The other thing we take into consideration is too that they have to focus on their job, obviously, and two great players, that we obviously owe a lot of credit and gratitude for helping us win a championship last year. But they're focused on their jobs too. We keep it in mind, and we just have to execute and be sort of mindful of when they're in the game, but there'll be some things that we have to have to change up just because they know the terminology up front and try to help give ourselves an advantage.
You mentioned the travel with fans. Curious if your travel has to change in any way. I mean, obviously, flying around it, how does that?
Yeah, I mean, it's flying around it more than anything. I know it's a wide storm, and it's obviously, I saw this morning, it's pretty high, pretty tall, so can't go over it. So we're gonna, have to go a little further west, I believe, and then come back around. But just safety for everybody, making sure that everybody arrives there safely and at the game.
After this kind of mini bye week, what have you seen from the players? Do you notice that they're more refreshed?
They're refreshed. It's funny because we obviously GPS tracking is something that we track each day and how our players are moving and it's monitored and it's historically speaking, when you have some time off and you get to that first Wednesday practice of the week, it typically is less. The total output is usually less from the standpoint of running and for whatever reason, whether they're too fresh or I don't know. It's just something that you just try to put a finger on. But I look back on our 2 years and the success that we had coming out of those games. We've won the next football game. So not making any predictions or anything like that, but I just know that historically that practice is usually a little bit less. Then it ramps up as the week goes. So Thursday is a better practice, Friday is a better practice, and you build towards the game. But they were fresh, they were ready to go, they were excited to be back on the practice field, and to have sort of that break this early, in the regular season, coming out of preseason is good for the guys.
Doug, during the telecast on Thursday, Chris Collinsworth made a comment about Michael Bennett being unhappy with his role in terms of being part of a defensive line rotation. Has he expressed anything like that to you or the coaching staff?
I haven't heard that. So, yeah, he's doing well. Yeah, thanks.